Okay, so we got about 10,392 total injuries now to go through. I mean, it's been like a wild morning already. Like I got up a couple hours ago and the injury news just started pouring in. First off, the first thing it started out with was the fact that we were going to see Bam Knight instead of Michael Carter today as the starter for the Arizona Cardinals offense. Now, I don't know what to make of that, to be completely honest with you. I had to look into it and be like, well, is Michael Carter injured or something like that? I mean, did an injury happen? No, to my knowledge, it's just a completely boneheaded move by the Cardinals to be like, yeah, we're going to go ahead and bench the one guy who was effective in our offense last week. So Adam Schefter reported on that one, and I find it just absolutely bizarre that would be the case. I guess that is going to be the case. Now, obviously, it complicates things because I don't want to just tell people to outright bench Michael Carter in every situation, but I also don't want to, go overboard and say, Bam Knight is some great play all of a sudden, and Michael Carter, is someone that you need to bench. It's like, I don't know what to believe, to be completely honest with you, on this one right here. So the Michael Carter and Bam Knight situation is definitely one that we're going to have to talk about. Another one that I saw was that Kyler Murray's out, so that's interesting. So it will be Jacoby Brissett who's throwing to Marvin Harrison Jr., who I still actually think is a solid play today. Then we had the news that Hassan Haskins was going to lead the backfield in Los Angeles today, so we'll see how that one holds up. I still don't believe that Kamani Vidal will be unimportant, but clearly they all are moving in my rankings, and I don't feel better about Vidal like I did yesterday heading into today about Vidal being a better play than Haskins. Then we get news Quentin Johnson is out as well. I mean, I know I'm missing some stuff. There was like 10,000 injury news today. I mean, it was freaking crazy. I mean, let's just go through all the updates that we can. Injury report. So let's see. Zay Flowers is in. I know that. I saw that. Miles Sanders done for the year now. Of course, Chuba Hubbard is out. Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of things going on this week. Yeah, lots of things going on. So, very, very interesting start to the day today already. But I know we've got questions. I know there's a game going on right now, which is a lot closer than I thought it was going to be. Those freaking London games, those overseas games, they screw things up big time, man. The Broncos just got a safety, and the Jets just took the lead. So, yeah, big time shocker in that game. But we're going to go ahead and answer some questions right now. Like the video, subscribe to the channel to show your support if you get value. And if you don't get your question answered today, what you need to do is go to FS Roundup, start a start-sit poll for Week 6 fantasy football, get people's live feedback from the site, and also go help out other people on their polls as well. Chaludo, what's going on, my man? Good to see you in here. Matthew Rowland, what's going on? Jameson, T. Higgins, Golden, or Bourne? So, Jameson Williams, I love the matchup tonight. I think it's going to be a high flyer that you really do want options in. So, I'd easily play him over T. Higgins, who the only way I would consider playing T. Higgins over Jameson Williams this week is if T. Higgins was in a position to where he was going to be the wide receiver one. Jamar Chase, that was another injury news. I think it came last night, actually, that Jamar Chase is going to be trending towards playing. So, there's really no need to, go overstep and, there's really no need to just, put your life on the line for this one because, T. Higgins is with Joe Flacco, I just don't see it working out that much. So I would play Jameson over T. Higgins. I would play Jameson over Golden as well. That one's a little bit closer because Matthew Golden, much like every Green Bay wide receiver has a very fluctuating target share, but the one thing that we haven't seen from Golden is like much big play ability. You know, all the big plays, the touchdowns have come from Dobbs, and there's been like some bombs down the field to Wicks too. Like Golden hasn't really separated himself that much. So like, you know, with the thing with Dobbs, right, is that Dobbs is like their clear best red zone threat, the guy that they like to use in the red zone. But Golden hasn't really established a role for himself in anything. So I don't see him being like some tremendous play that I would make over J-Mo at this point. The real question is Kendrick Bourne. And if you have a premium membership over at FS Roundup, you have access to my rankings. Like every time I do an update, we're going to actually start an alert system and a notification system. When I make updates to the rankings, you guys will know about it. At some point, we'll add that. But, yeah, like obviously my rankings have been updated. Kendrick Bourne has moved over Juwan Jennings. So Juwan Jennings is over Jameson Williams. So I will play Kendrick Bourne over Jameson Williams because I do think that Kendrick Bourne, again, what we're going to see today is no Ricky Pearsall. Now, Jennings is playing, but Mac Jones is playing. So that chemistry that Mac Jones and Kendrick Bourne have, that's built into this whole equation and the whole ranking for me. So I personally really like Kendrick Bourne this week. Once again, they're playing the Tampa Bay Bucks defense, which is a great matchup for him. So I'll go Kendrick Bourne. Michael Merowitz, appreciate the super chat. What is going on? Good to see you in here. Start 2, Kenneth Walker, Jennings, J-Mo, Henry or Tonjes, Haskins, Pollard, Keon, or Bourne. Well, let's see this. So we're going to start the 2 between Kenneth, Jennings, and J-Mo. I'll go with Kenneth because, again, I think Kenneth is still relatively decently ranked. I like the matchup against the Jags today. I don't think that's as tough as a lot of people make it out to be. Again, you know, I've covered this a couple of times in my defense rankings over the past couple of weeks. What's really bringing the Jags to being the number 1 defense in fantasy is not only their touchdown last week against the Chiefs, but also because they have 10 interceptions in 5 games, which is incredible. Like, that's, like, tremendous that they're able to do that. But it's not because they're, like, holding opponents to, like, very few points, right? Like, the Chiefs were able to put up almost 30 points on them. You know, plenty of teams have put up offense against them. It's the turnovers that the Jags are getting. So, in other words, I think the Seahawks can move the ball today against the Jags just fine. And, again, if it's a split backfield, it makes it tougher, and it is a split backfield, but I'll always take Kenneth Walker over Charbonnet because of the athleticism. And I still do view Kenneth as like an explosive and decent upside play at running back too. Whereas with like Jameson Williams again right now, like the matchup, yes, it's very volatile and there's a lot of potential in this matchup alone. I'm not debating that, right? But what I am saying is that Jameson Williams is, unless you are in a position to where you need an explosion and you're willing to get 2 points out of the equation as well. Like if you are, for example, like if you're playing against a team that is, you're not first in the league, this team you're playing is first in the league and they're like averaging 150, 160 points per game and you're only averaging like 140. Well, maybe I would say Jameson Williams is someone worth playing over Kendrick Bourne because I do think that Kendrick Bourne is going to be, probably. I mean, Kendrick Bourne had a great ceiling last week. Like he had 24 points in a full PPR format, but I think Jameson Williams, obviously in this game, could go for 30. So I think Kendrick Bourne is definitely the better play than Jameson Williams. And again, I'm going to play Kenneth over both of them because I do just trust more the workload, I guess, for really lack of better way of thinking about it, because Kenneth's workload is capped, but at least we know on a weekly basis, like he's going to get 12 to 15 opportunities, if not even a little bit more. So I'll go with Kenneth and I will go with Kendrick Bourne. Next part of your question, Henry or Tonjes. So they're both well ranked for me. I do think they're both good plays. The thing I like about Tonjes a lot is the matchup, and then Henry, the matchup isn't bad for him as well. New Orleans is a solid matchup too. I do think that, I think the thing with Tonjes is that with the return of Juwan Jennings, it's another weapon added. So it complicates things, right? So, like, last week, it worked so well because it was Kendrick Bourne, Demarcus Robinson, and Jake Tonjes. Like, that was really the equation that there was in San Francisco. Well, this week, they've got another key piece back for them. So, like, Juwan Jennings, obviously, and Christian McCaffrey's going to eat his in the passing game as well. So I just think that more weapons equals less opportunities for Jake Tonjes, because realistically, like, if you look at Jake Tonjes, like, in his season and in its entirety, like, he's been operating on lower volume. If we look back to, like, week 4, for example, when they did have Ricky Pearsall and they did have Juwan Jennings, he had 4 targets, right? But he got in the end zone. So it's like, it's just a little bit riskier. And then when we think about in New England with Hunter Henry, Hunter Henry, he's had a couple 2-target weeks as well, 4-target weeks. He hasn't seen that, like, 10 targets since week 3? Week 1 he had 8 targets. So, like, he's a little bit hot and cold as well. They both have really good matchups. So I'm going to go ahead and stick with my rankings, which is Jake Tonjes on this one, because, again, they're both in position to where it's a little bit risky with both of those guys, but I think they both have their own set of upside. And I'll take the matchup where I think there's going to be more points in the game, which is, I think, 49ers versus Tampa. So I'll go Jake Tonjes. Haskins, Pollard, Keon, or Bourne. I'm going to go with Kendrick Bourne, again, because I think that where he's placed in my rankings is higher, and it's not that close. I do think Pollard's a solid start, but, again, like, with Tony Pollard, the one thing last week, like, you definitely saw this last week if you were paying attention, and, again, this is a huge part of the site right here, is you could see snap counts and opportunities with these guys. Now, for some reason, the Tennessee Titans backfield isn't coming up from last week, but Tyjae Spears was involved last week. And I do think that he'll be involved again in his second week back. So Pollard, all he's been working off of this year has basically been the volume aspect. Like, it's not like he's been that good, but he's been, working off of volume. And I don't think that he's going to have that as much this week. So Pollard's out for me as far as, like, being a steady play anymore. Keon Coleman, always there's going to be a chance of a big game, especially in, like, a higher over-under, which this one is. But the floor is so much lower than Bourne's this week. And then Haskins, like, again, even though Haskins was declared the starter or the lead back this morning, it doesn't mean that he's going to take 100%. Like, if it's 12 carries between the two of those guys, I don't really want much to do with either one of them. I just don't think either are that good. So I'd go with Kendrick Bourne easily. So I'll go Kendrick Bourne, Tonjes, and then Kenneth Walker, and Juwan Jennings. Yeah, I think I was talking about Bourne a lot in your Jennings or J-Mo conversation. I'll go with, I guess let me re-answer that, because I think I went through a lot of Bourne. I'll personally play Jameson Williams over Juwan Jennings. I'll play J-Mo because I like the ceiling quite a bit for Jameson Williams, whereas with Juwan Jennings, again, I think that there's that chemistry aspect with Kendrick Bourne that's going to play a big role. So I'm going to go with J-Mo over Jennings with Kenneth Walker in the first part. Appreciate the super chat again. Good to see you. Adrian, good to see you as well. Appreciate the super chat. Hope you and your dad's birthday went well. Yeah, it was good. Yeah, my birthday was actually on Tuesday. My dad's birthday is this coming Tuesday, but they're going to the lake house. We can't make it this week, so we ended up just celebrating last night. We had a good time. Had plenty of chispas, which are margaritas, basically. So, yeah, it was a good night. So, AMA or Judy, Isaiah Bond. Which one to pick because QJ is out? Yeah, so, again, that's another... we covered that at the beginning, but if you didn't hear, Quentin Johnston is out today. So Ladd McConkey becomes more valuable. Keenan Allen becomes more valuable in this game. A.M. Maynard Jr., Isaiah Bond, we're scraping bottom of the barrel here. Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. The problem, like, and I saw maybe it was you that posted it, Adrian. There was a start-sit poll on the site about Jerry Jeudy and Elik Ehemaner, and I voted, like I vote on all these polls, right? Like I vote on every one of these polls just to give you guys kind of insight into what I'm thinking. Here it is. No, it wasn't you unless you're Batman831. But yeah, I voted for Elik Ehemaner over Jerry Jeudy because listen, the problem with Jerry Jeudy, and we saw this last week, you know, I said with the Browns that they're going to be in this position to where Dylan Gabriel is just going to play more conservative football than Flacco was going to. And so he basically targeted his tight ends into oblivion, and Jeudy got 3 targets last week, while Bond got 6. So, like, I actually think Bond is a better play than Jeudy. Like, I think Isaiah Bond is the better play because he's fulfilling more of a slot role, and a lot of like his targets are safer, which fit again the more conservative playing style that Dylan Gabriel is playing with right now. So I would play Bond over Jeudy right now. Like I think Jeudy is like basically unplayable. But the thing with Elik Ehemaner is that last week he definitely took more of a step back in this offense and took more of a backseat to Calvin Ridley. So I do have some concerns with Elik Ehemaner, but I will say this, like the one thing that I'm going to stick with here with Elik Ehemaner is I still through 5 weeks have seen way more and way better chemistry with Ehemaner and Cam Ward than I've seen with Calvin Ridley and Cam Ward. And the matchup today for them versus the Las Vegas Raiders, it's too good for me to pass up on. So I think the Steelers matchup is good as well, but I just think that the way the quarterback is playing is so conservative. And the one thing about Cam Ward in Tennessee, he doesn't play conservative. Like, that guy's a cowboy. He'll sling it around, and he'll do anything with that ball. So, like, I like the chance taking more because it gives Ehemaner a little bit better upside, I think. So I'll go with Elik Ehemaner over the Browns receivers. Appreciate the super chat again. Good to see you in here. Ryan, my fellow Ryan. Good to see you as well. Appreciate the super chat. I have Jacobs and Gibbs torn between Dowdle and JCM in the flex. I think Dowdle is safer because he's 100% running back 1 and not sharing touches. Well, Jacobs and Gibbs obviously gives you tremendous floor and tremendous upside at the running back position this week. So, you know, that's a good thing for you. Now, I'll say this, like, I do think that I touched on this, like, a little bit earlier in the week this week, which is that, you know, the thing with Bill and JCM in Washington is that it makes logical sense at this point that he would be their lead back because through the first 5 weeks, even when Eckler was there, Bill was their best running back. Like, he's been their best running back by efficiency on a per-touch basis ever since the season started. And so now Eckler's gone, and they finally give him the workload last week that we had been waiting for, and he evolves, and he was a huge part of the reason that they won the game last week. So it makes logical sense to me that he would be the lead back. And in this matchup versus the Bears tomorrow night, I do think it's like a decent matchup, right? Like, I think that's a matchup you could take advantage of. Now, I will say this, like with Dowdle, there's no question that he's going to be the lead back. Like, if we saw anything last week, it's the takeaway that Dowdle is clearly the lead back and Trevor Etienne was not as involved as I thought he was going to be. And, of course, like, he popped off and was absolutely ridiculously efficient with his work. So, like, averaging basically 10 yards per carry against the Dolphins defense is something you definitely want to take into account because the Dolphins defense is one of the worst in the league. But, I mean, the Cowboys is right up there too. So it's not like the Cowboys defense is like some matchup that you need to fear for a running back. And this is a revenge game. So, like, yes, of course, I have gotten to the point where I've ranked Rico Dowdle over JCM this week. But, like, JCM is not a bad play at all. He's not. But Rico Dowdle is the better play, and that's definitely the play that I would prefer to make as well. So I'm in agreement with you. I would play Dowdle. It's not only the safer play, it's also, I think, potentially the higher upside play. Appreciate the super chat again. Jordan Eversole, appreciate the super chat. Good to see you in here. Happy Sunday to you as well. Good to see you in here. Need to start 2 at the flex. Full PPR, tight end premium for half a point. Between Tyler Warren, Waddle, Flowers, and Myers. So this is one of those scenarios where I always talk about Tyler Warren in the sense that he's a must start because I mean it. Like Tyler Warren has been a pivotal part of this offense. And the funny thing is that like Michael Pittman Jr. has been a really good wide receiver in fantasy this year. I think he's like top 15 right now or top 10 even, if I'm remembering correctly. Well, if you actually look at the Indianapolis Colts and their stats as a team, Tyler Warren is still the leading receiver by receiving yards. So, like, Tyler Warren, that's just how important he's been to this offense. And a lot of his stuff has, like, been down the field, and they finally got him in the end zone. Like, I think it was, like, possibly their first time this year. Through the air, that is. Like, he had one rushing touchdown earlier in the year. But the bottom line being is that Tyler Warren is a very pivotal piece to their offense. And against the Cardinals defense today, the vibes in Arizona right now, they've got to be so atrocious. They've got to be some of the worst in the league based on that loss last week and just the dysfunction that we saw with them. So I'm really, like, at a point where it's like I cannot envision not starting Tyler Warren. And Tyler Warren, again, if you have a premium subscription on FS Roundup, you get access to my weekly top 250 rankings. Utilize them. Because every week, Tyler Warren, for me, has been like a top 3 tight end for, I don't know, probably the last 4 weeks at least. He's basically been there all year. Tyler Warren's he's been tremendous. So, like, over Zay Flowers, easily I would play him over Zay Flowers. Jacoby Myers, I'd easily play Warren. The only real question here is with Jalen Waddle, because Waddle is getting more downfield work, and I do think he has a higher ceiling than Tyler Warren. But the fact that it's a tight end premium does change things. Like tight end premium and Tyler Warren could easily be a smash play for you this week. So that's a really tough conundrum. My first question, I think, is going to be, who is your tight end one? Because, like, unless it's like Jake Ferguson or maybe Trey McBride, I can't envision sitting Tyler Warren. Like, there's no way I'm sitting Tyler Warren over somebody like, Hunter Henry. Obviously, most people wouldn't do that either, but, like, I wouldn't sit him over Tucker Kraft. Like, I wouldn't sit him over somebody like, obviously Brock Bowers injured, but, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm struggling to find names because, like, a lot of it wouldn't make sense for me to bench him. So, like, I guess the question I have for you is, who's your tight end one? Because, like, I have a very hard time imagining myself benching him. So I want to find a way to get them both in. Like, I want to find a way to get both Waddle and Tyler Warren into your lineup because I think they both should be there. Waddle, for me, is a top 15 receiver this week. I think he's going to be a great play versus the Chargers defense. He's getting downfield work, but I also want to play Warren. I guess if I had to split hairs here, because I haven't seen you. Oh, you have Jake Ferguson. Okay, so Jake Ferguson, yeah, you play Jake Ferguson for sure, especially in a tight end premium. Yeah, if I had to split hairs here, it's tough, man. That's a really tough one. If I had to split hairs here, I'd probably go with Jalen Waddle because he's been more dominant with the targets. Last week was a huge indicating factor. Like, he's going to be clearly getting like 8 targets per game at this point. He had 9 targets last week, and he had 110 yards and a touchdown. They're playing another defense today, which I think is not soft. Like, the Panthers defense is softer, but, like, the Chargers defense isn't soft, but they just have so many injuries right now on both sides of the ball that I think Miami can move the ball today. So I've got more trouble sitting Waddle probably, even in a tight end premium. So I think I'd go with Waddle over Brock Bowers, but it's not Brock Bowers, Tyler Warren. But it's very close. It's very, very close. This is not an obvious choice for me. So they're both good plays. I'll go with Waddle, though. Appreciate the super chat. Good to see you in here, Jordan. Dizzy B, appreciate the super chat. Okay, where's your question? Dizzy B, where are you? Here we go. Right above it. I drafted Brown and Walker. That became a nightmare. Yeah, unfortunately it did. But I was smart and drafted Benson. That is smart and very unfortunate. Then I got DeMercado, then traded for Carter. Now it's Bam. I'm so over that whole team. Oh my gosh, that's such a freaking awful chain of events for you. Oh my God. This isn't even like a question. You just basically like wanted to like share in the frustration. And like the irony is I share in your frustration completely because mostly from the Trey Benson perspective, Benson was easily my most drafted player in fantasy football this year. So, and I've been telling people this, like when I give, when you're a premium subscriber here at fsroundup.com, you can get a team breakdown from me when your first payment processes, and I'm behind on them still, but like I'm catching up. And I've done a lot of team breakdowns with Trey Benson, and I say the same thing in all of them. Like we got robbed. Like we got robbed of a breakout season, and it's no guarantee that it's going to happen anymore. Like he returns in week 10. DeMercado has become irrelevant. Michael Carter now being. I will say this. We got the news, and I covered it at the beginning of the live stream, that Michael Carter was going to be overtaken by Bam Knight today. Listen, I don't want to take that overboard. I don't know how seriously I take that news, because how in any logical world could you bench Michael Carter when he was your most effective offensive piece last week? Like over McBride, over Marvin, he was the best offensive piece they had. It doesn't make logical sense. So, like, coaches do and say a lot of things. Like, the difference between their actions and their words is very different. Sean Payton is one of them, right? But, like, my point being is that I don't want to take this too overboard. If you still have Carter, I'm not saying that he's a bench. Like, not outright bench. Now, Bam Knight, because of the news, I have to rank him over Michael Carter at this point. It'd be irresponsible for me to not take that information in. But I'm not saying that Carter, like if it's between Carter and Jerry Jeudy, I'm playing Michael Carter. I will play Michael Carter. I think his ceiling is still better. If it's Michael Carter and Kendrick Bourne, I'm going to play Kendrick Bourne now, though. So, like, things have changed, but I'm not outright benching Carter. But yeah, I mean, I'm sharing the frustration with you entirely. It's freaking disgusting. And a huge bummer for you. So appreciate the super chat. I definitely share in your anger. Good to see you in here too. Daniel Tremels, what's going on? Appreciate the super chat. 14-man PPR flex. Bam Knight, Vidal, Bourne, Brashard Smith. So I'm going to assume you're just asking for one. So just in case you're not, I'll rank them for you. So again, I just discussed Bam Knight. Like, you have to take into account the fact that this guy is being named basically the starter this morning, according to Adam Schefter. Now, I'm not outright benching Carter, but I definitely had to rank him over Michael Carter this week with that news. So, like, yeah, it's, things have definitely changed on that front with the Arizona Cardinals. So, like, I can't act like that's not a factor. The matchup today versus the Indianapolis Colts, I do think is one that you could take advantage of in theory, because of the fact that, there will be pass catching upside in particular. And if DeMercado is not a factor at all, and it's possible that he's not, then Bam Knight could become a really big time pass catching back today. But is he worth playing over Bourne? Again, no. Like, I would play Kendrick Bourne over Bam Knight and Michael Carter at this point, because we're at the point now where it's like, it just makes more sense to play Kendrick Bourne, someone who has legitimate chemistry with his quarterback, Mac Jones, and somebody who is, I think, just a better player than Bam Knight. I mean, Bam Knight's been in the league for a while now, and he hasn't really done much. Like, he's had a couple big games. He's provided fantasy upside and spot starts here and there over the years, but he's not that good, right? So Bourne is definitely the top dog in this. Kamani Vidal's a very similar story to Michael Carter, where it's it's kind of weird. I mean, Michael Carter's a better running back than Vidal, I think, so it's a little less weird, but Hassan Haskins has mostly been a pass catching back through his years with the Chargers, so it's a little weird. I would end up playing Bam Knight over Kamani Vidal, and then I would play, the thing about Brashard Smith, I was actually very, very close in one of my redraft leagues to picking him up today. I didn't end up doing it because I ended up picking up Bam Knight. And the reason I'll play Bam Knight over him is because, again, we have a more solidified role with Bam Knight in theory. Brashard Smith is working his way into the fold for Kansas City, but he's not there yet. So I'm not in on it completely. Like, I do think we're getting closer, and I do think he has longer-term upside. Like, if you asked me this question and it was week 9, I might lean towards Brashard Smith because I do think that over time, Brashard Smith is going to get more involved. Like, on 6 snaps the other day on the Monday night game, he had 4 opportunities. Like, that's a lot. I mean, that opportunity to snap count percentage is pretty enormous. So, like, I do think he will be more involved because out of the backfield, he has been good. He has been good through the air. So, like, I do think that moving forward, he could be good. But right now, I'm not there yet with him. So, for me, it's going to go Bourne number 1, Bam Knight number 2. I'll play Brashard Smith. I'll play Vidal 3, and I'll play Brashard Smith 4th. Because, again, I still do think Vidal could get work as well. So, that's my ranking. But Kendrick Bourne is easily at the front. Easily. Appreciate the super chat. Addy Dixit, what's going on? Appreciate the super chat. Half PPR, sit 1. JCM, Tet, Worthy, Flex, Juan, or Swift? I'm assuming you're saying Jawan Jennings, not Juan. Because I don't know any Juan. Half PPR, sit 1. JCM, Tet, or Worthy. So here's the thing. Like, earlier in the week, I would have said Worthy is my must start. But I got to tell you, man, like, even in this matchup that sounds so good in theory, I'm not sold on Worthy, and he dropped my rankings because I'm worried about this injury. It's not just one injury, it's 2. So he's got the shoulder that he's been dealing with since week 1 from Travis Kelce's moron ass. And then, pardon my French, I don't usually curse on this channel. And the ankle injury as well that swelled up. Like, you at one point in that Monday night game, I was like, he's not coming back. But he did come back, which is good. But, what we saw last week was concerning from a perspective of, like, most of it was not down the field. Like, most of that work that he got was very, very short distance. He had 9 targets in that game. 6 catches for 42 yards is nothing. That's less than 10 yards per reception. So, like, there wasn't tons of downfield work. I mean, Tyquan Thornton continues to be their downfield guy. Even Hollywood Brown had more downfield work than Worthy did. So, like, I'm worried about Worthy. I don't think that he's playing 100%, and I think that's very clear. So, Worthy worries me. And I will play, like, the thing, I will definitely play Tet over Worthy at this point because, first of all, I love the matchup for Tet this week. Like, the matchup versus the Dallas Cowboys is fantastic. I do think that's a risk I'm willing to take because it's not even a risk as far as floor. Like, the floor for Tet McMillan is not risky. The risk comes with the ceiling not hitting because I think his ceiling is probably 20, 25 points this week because all he has to do is get in the end zone because the guy's target share has been freaking enormous through the first 5 weeks of his career in the NFL. So he's been great, man, and I think that Tet does get in the end zone this week. I think it's a prime week for him to have a massive game. So Tet, for me, is above Worthy at this point. The real question is, am I willing to go far enough to where I play Bill over Xavier Worthy? And that feels like a really risky thing to do, considering the matchup for the Xavier Worthy. And I think that they are in a must-win position, Kansas City is, and they've got to win this game. And Detroit's going to put points on them. So it's going to be a shootout tonight. So in a shootout game, I'm just way more inclined to play a player on a shootout game, which in theory should be very involved. So, like, in theory, Worthy should be another 10-target guy and a guy that I don't want to bench. We got another spammer, so that's great. But yeah, I'll go ahead and play Worthy over Bill Krosky this week. Well, I don't have time to go shut this spammer down. So hopefully, I need to make some moderators in here. I need to make some of the more loyal people moderators because we've got to shut down these spammers, man. But yeah, I think your second part, which is Juwan or Swift, is, I think that when it comes to DeAndre Swift, it's just a limited ceiling. Like, that's just the reality with him, unfortunately, is that we've just gotten to the point where all you can really expect from him is like 10 points to like 15 points if he gets in the end zone. Like, even when he gets in the end zone, that's his cap. So with Juwan Jennings against the Tampa Bay Bucks today, that matchup offers a lot more upside than the matchup does for Swift. And it's not even a matchup thing necessarily. It's just like what we've seen from DeAndre Swift has not been encouraging, to where I think that he has a 20-point ceiling. I think Jennings does have a 20-point ceiling today against the Bucks defense. That's a matchup I would take advantage of for sure. So yeah, I personally think that it's one of those scenarios where when it comes to ceiling, I would definitely take Juwan Jennings' ceiling. But even floor, like, I think that floor-wise, like, their floor is very similar. So, like, it's very clear to me that I would go with Juwan Jennings. Appreciate the super chat. SEAL Team J, what's going on? Appreciate the super chat. 10-man PPR, 1 flex. Pick 1 tight end and 2 flex. McBride or Ferguson, BTJ, Olave, Kamara, or Jamar, or the other tight end. No tight end premium. So 1 tight end and 2 flex. McBride or Ferguson, they're both great plays, definitely. I definitely think that when it comes to Ferguson, the reason, like, I'm at this point right now where it's like Ferguson's my tight end 1 in rankings, because his target share even with like CeeDee Lamb, it's been really good, but his target share without him, like, it's the way that he's being targeted and the way that Dak is playing right now, it's like impossible to bench Jake Ferguson and to not consider him at the very least a top 5 tight end. Like, again, he's my tight end 1 at this point in fantasy football. I love Jake Ferguson, but especially if you're talking about like tight end premium, which I know you're not, but like Jake Ferguson can't come anywhere near it. But like, again, you're not talking about tight end premium, but Jake Ferguson has to go in my lineup because every team that they play, I don't care if it's the Panthers, I don't care if it's the Jets, like, they're going to put up points on the Cowboys. So like, I do want to play Jake Ferguson over Trey McBride, who, the problem with McBride, again, that we're seeing this year is that he's still not getting in the end zone. And that was a huge story for McBride all of last year. He was getting so much work, but like, he wasn't getting frequent end zone trips. So it's like, it's hard to really put that much stock into a ceiling with McBride when the floor is really high, but the ceiling with Ferguson is unquestionably higher than McBride's at this point. And, with Jacoby Brissett now in the game today for the Cardinals, it does make me question, like, what is he going to do with the receivers? So I'll definitely play Ferguson over McBride for sure. And, of course, I still think McBride is a good tight end play. BTJ, Olave, Kamara, or Jamar Chase. So I'll play Jamar Chase as one of them because I do want that upside. He's also the highest ranked out of the bunch right there. I'd play him over I'd play him over all those guys. So one of those flexes is going to be Jamar Chase, and then the other flex is going to end up being between BTJ and McBride. I'd play McBride over Olave and Kamara because, again, it's not a problem with the workload necessarily with either of those guys, and I've highlighted this particularly with Alvin Kamara this year. The problem with Kamara is that he's not good enough on the ground anymore, and he's also just not in a good enough offense to where if he loses out on targets, it's not going to be good. And he's getting targets. Like, he got 6 targets last week, but he needs 10. Because Kamara, his upside has been in PPR leagues, and it's been because of like 10 to 12 targets per game that he's been averaging basically the last couple of years of his career. So it's a problem with Kamara when you're not seeing 10 targets per game, and he's not seeing that right now. They're trying to limit his workload. So like, and then on the other side with Olave, like it's very hard to bench 13 targets per game, but again, the offensive upside is just not as high as it is with Brian Thomas Jr., who, in theory hasn't been as good. But it's not been that different, to be honest with you. Like, Olave is more consistent because of the targets, but Brian Thomas Jr. maybe starting to click a little bit more, and I still think he has a higher ceiling because of Lawrence versus Rattler. So I'd play Brian Thomas Jr. over those guys, but would I play him over McBride? Again, it's tough this week because of the fact that Jacoby Brissett is the quarterback and you don't know what he's going to want to do. But I just because of the way their offense works, and it really does work through McBride, I have a hard time believing that Jacoby Brissett, a backup, is going to be really trying to target everybody else except him. Like, I think that McBride is still going to be involved enough in this game to be fantasy relevant. And, maybe he does get in the end zone. I think part of the problem with, like, why McBride doesn't get in the end zone much is because Kyler Murray struggles to see over the field. So, like, anytime they're in the red zone, for example, Kyler Murray struggles because, like, everything's so jammed up in the middle at the red zone that I don't think he can see over the middle a lot because he's so short. Like, he needs a step stool, like, to see above, like, his lineman. Jacoby Brissett's a big guy, so, like, he can see. Like, he's a big, strong guy. So, like, he can see over the line, and I do think that changes the game a little bit as far as his touchdown upside. So I'll go with Trey McBride in this one. Appreciate the super chat. Tyler Sperry, good to see you in here. Appreciate the super chat. Kendrick Bourne or Romeo Doubs if Jennings plays? Well, Jennings is going to play. So that's the report, at least, that we got the update. And Kendrick Bourne, I said this earlier in the week. Kendrick Bourne, regardless of Jennings plays or not, and again, it looks like Jennings will play, but regardless of if he played or not, I like him over Jennings because of the fact that the chemistry is there with Mac Jones. And that's, I've seen a couple people in the chat, like, obviously I've had questions about Kendrick Bourne, and I've seen people in the chat kind of get hesitant about Kendrick Bourne because of Jawan Jennings' return. And in theory, of course, like, it would affect it. But chemistry is a big thing. Chemistry is a big thing. Baker Mayfield and Sterling Shepard in Tampa Bay, they have chemistry, and it's been working out for Sterling Shepard a couple times this year. So, like, it's a big thing. Let me pause right here. Watch this fourth down play against the Jets. Justin Fields goes down. The Broncos are going to win this game. So the Broncos take it home. They low scoring 13-11. Broncos defense ends up being a good play in fantasy. And the Broncos take down the Jets in London today. Justin Fields gets sacked on 4th and 8. Minute 9 seconds left. No timeouts for the Jets. This game is over. So I can go ahead and close that tab. But I think when it comes to Dobbs, right? Like, they've got this little window today. Because they're playing the Bengals, who they're not going to put up many points. They've got this little tiny window to where they're going to be passing the ball, probably not much in the fourth quarter, right? So, like, they don't need to, like, take red zone shots a bunch. There's not going to be a ton of, like, target opportunity later in the game. And that limits, like, the amount of time, like, that obviously limits his window because they're not going to throw as much as, like, Kendrick Bourne and the 49ers will say. The 49ers are going to be playing catch-up, if anything. They're not going to be pacing the Bucs in points. The Bucs will be pacing them in points. That's my belief. So, like, the 49ers and the Bucs has potential to be a real shootout. And again, the upside with the chemistry that he has with Mac Jones is still there regardless of if Jennings is available or not. And Jennings, again, I think is going to be available. So for me personally, it's going to be Kendrick Bourne. I think Kendrick Bourne is a really good play this week again. And Romeo Doubs is fine. But again, the problem with a guy like that is that everything he gets is basically at the red zone. So it's like, if he doesn't get in the end zone, then, he's not going to do well. And they're not going to he's not going to get 8 targets in this game versus the Bengals because the Bengals won't be pacing them in points as well. So I'm going to go with Kendrick Bourne. But they're close. Appreciate the super chat. Delirious, what's going on? Appreciate the super chat. Ryan Flournoy or not 100% Juwan Jennings? Yeah, Ryan Flournoy is definitely a guy that you want to keep an eye on for sure because of, again, like I pointed this out yesterday when I did the wide receiver must start and sit video. Like, it was so funny last week when I did my wide receiver rankings. I had like a couple people, they were really like complaining about like, oh, where's Jalen Tolbert? He had 10 targets. Like, Jalen Tolbert sucks. He does. Like, he's just not a good player. So Ryan Flournoy last week has 8 targets and over 100 yards receiving. And it's like, well, you can apologize, Yahoo? That's why you're a Yahoo and nobody knows who the hell you are. Because, like, I mean, Ryan Flournoy is a better player and a better fantasy option than Tolbert. So I get where people are coming from with Ryan Flournoy this week because, in theory, he should get more work. So, like, I do think that there's a good chance that Ryan Flournoy has another good game. And Juwan Jennings, on the other hand, like, I keep saying this with Jennings, which is that I think that the upside is still going to be there because of the fact that this matchup is so great. Like, the matchup against the Bucs defense is already not good. And, you know, the fact of the matter is that even though I think Kendrick Bourne's going to have another good day, they need all the weapons they can get. Because Ricky Pearsall's still out, George Kittle's still out. So, like, this week they've got McCaffrey, Tonjes, Kendrick Bourne, and Juwan Jennings. And maybe a little bit of Demarcus Robinson. So, like, there's really a good chance that Jennings has, like, a 20-point game in this one. Whereas with Ryan Flournoy, I have trouble thinking that they're going to need to put up tons of pass-catching upside. Because I think they're going to be, I think if anything, like, it could go like it went like with the Jets last week, which is that they get out to a really big lead and then the Panthers have to play catch-up, which, I mean, he did well last week like that, but I'm going to go with Kendrick Bourne over Ryan Flournoy just because of the fact that there's better pass-catching options, and I think Pickens is probably not quiet for 2 weeks straight. So I'll go with Jennings in this one. Appreciate the super chat, Delirious. Good to see you in here as well. Adam Thompson. Adam, good to see you in here. Appreciate the super chat. Pickens or Tet? Rain and wind look like they're going to be a factor in this game. Auden or Tonjes, good luck, everyone. Good luck to you as well, Adam. Pickens or Tet McMillan is a question that I think is definitely more fair than maybe some people would give it credit. And I think even myself falls into that category because, you know, I think that Pickens is, like, on the surface a better play because he has a better quarterback. And, like, I'll stick with that. Like, I'll definitely pick Pickens over Tet. But, again, I probably should give it more credence because it's not the fact that I think that Tet is a bad player. And I keep highlighting this with Tet over and over, which is that this guy is definitely going to have upside in this game that's been higher than any game he's played in this year because they're playing the Cowboys defense, which is a truly great, tremendous opportunity for him to have his first touchdown. But my problem is he's got Bryce Young and Pickens has Dak. And the difference, the drastic difference between the two is enormous. Like, Tet is still going to have a Bryce Young ceiling. And that's just the problem. Like, Tet is obviously the wide receiver one in this offense. Like, 8 to 10 targets per game is what the guy is seeing on a weekly basis. But, you know, it's just a problem when you get a quarterback like Bryce Young and you've got Dak Prescott on the other side. Like, what would really piss me off is if I told you to start Tet and on a hunch that Tet has big upside today and then have Pickens go off while Tet has 14 points, but Pickens has 25. Because, again, it would be so obvious after the fact that's like, oh, yeah, one of those guys has Dak and the other one has Bryce Young. So I'm going to stick with the better quarterback. I'm going to stick with the receiver who I think is just as prone to big plays as Tet. I'll go with Pickens in this one. Auden or Tonjes. And again, to your point about the rain, and the wind, think of who has the stronger arm, right? Like the guy who has the stronger arm is clearly Dak Prescott. Clearly. Bryce Young's arm isn't necessarily the weakest in the league, but I mean, he's just such a smaller player. And I mean, him himself, like if the wind gets up to 20 miles an hour, like we may see Bryce Young like floating like a tumbleweed through the wind. I mean, he's just that small. So yeah, think of the wind and think of who's got the bigger and better arm, which is clearly Dak Prescott. Otten or Tonjes, they're both solid options, I think, actually. Otten is, in theory, should be in play. Now, the problem with that theory is that he has been in play, in theory, again, for weeks. Like, basically all season he's been in play, and he's done nothing, really. I mean, last week is the first time that he had any sort of fantasy upside, and he almost got 100 yards in that game. Now, I do think that there's possibility, like, when you're in Tampa's offense, that upside is going to be big for any pass catcher. Baker is playing out of his mind right now. He's playing at an MVP level. So, like, it feels a little irresponsible to go against the Baker pass catching option. But I think that, again, it comes down to importance in the offense. And Jake Tonjes has shown he's shown to be a big threat at the red zone in particular. And Otten hasn't gotten those opportunities. So it comes down to volume here, because if Otten has 10 targets in this game or close to it, like let's say that he has 7 or 8 targets in this game, he could be a better play if Tonjes doesn't get in the end zone. But I still think that, again, if the Bucs defense was like the Broncos defense, I would go with Otten in this one, because I would say, well, the red zone trips may be a little less frequent for the 49ers this week, but they're playing the Bucs defense, which isn't good. So I think that they're still going to get red zone trips, and that's where Tonjes has made a lot of his money. So I'll go with Tonjes this week over Cade Otten still. Appreciate the super chat. Good luck to you as well, and always good to see you, Adam. Bullwinkle 5612. What's going on? Appreciate the super chat. Flex start. BTJ, Keenan Allen, Pittman, or Vidal. Vidal's out. I am not playing Vidal over any of those receivers. Listen, it's really hard to sit Pittman, but I will say Keenan Allen is definitely a problem this week because, again, if people haven't heard, and I'm sure you have, Bullwinkle, but, the thing with it is that Quentin Johnston is out today. So they're playing the Dolphins, who I do think can put up points. They're one less weapon, and Keenan Allen already has been getting tons of targets on a per-game basis. Like, if we look at Keenan Allen's full season, he's had 44 targets in 5 games. That's basically 10 targets per game. That's like 9 targets per game is what he's getting through the first 5 games. So, like, this guy has been too important already with both of them there for me to really easily bench in any situation, because he's got a better quarterback than Pittman does. And, obviously Indiana Jones has played perfectly fine this year. I think what I always say with Pittman is that, the good thing with Pittman this year has been that his floor has been really stable because of how well Daniel Jones is playing and also how efficient he's been targeting Pittman in particular. Like, Pittman has clearly been the guy he has the most chemistry with out of the receiving group, and then Tyler Warren is still a factor, and that plays into it because, Pittman's got competition with Tyler Warren, and if he continues to connect short distance with downs, it'll continue to take opportunity and upside away from Pittman. So Pittman's floor is going to be really safe, but Keenan's floor is safe as well. And I think the upside is with Keenan this week over Pittman because I think it'll be probably, ironically, a more competitive matchup today. I think Arizona is going to be – I think that the Colts will trample the Cardinals today. I think they will. And I think that the Dolphins could put up points today. I think they could against the Chargers. So I'm going to go with Keenan Allen since Ladd McConkey – or since Quentin Johnston is out of the equation. I will go with Keenan Allen. Appreciate the super chat. Again, that is how you get your question. You get your question answered immediately by doing a super chat. That is how you jump the line. We'll answer some free questions right now, too, as well. Try to get as many as I can in. We got 15 minutes left. Again, guys, Really quick, all these numbers we're going through completely free on FS Roundup. If you don't get your question answered, I would go post a poll right now. Start sit poll on FS Roundup. It's completely free to do this. You get live feedback and results from the community, and go help everybody else out as well with their start to sit decisions, and go vote on their polls as well. If you want to get a premium membership here, you'll get a full team breakdown from me if you email me after your first payment processes. You'll also be able to use the waiver wire tool and many other elite features. Damon Holland, appreciate the super chat. Again, we are going to answer some free questions too. Bourne or Golden in the flex, full PPR? So again, I think that with the Packers offense, the problem with them is that they're just going to be limited with the pass catching upside, because you've got this really small window today against the Bengals, because all conventional wisdom would tell you that they're going to be pounding the Bengals in this game, and they won't need to throw that much into the fourth quarter. And Golden, he got 6 targets against the Cowboys. Well, that game, really, you shouldn't even look at that game too closely, because they played 5 quarters. That game went down and they both tied. So they played 5 full quarters of football, and he got 6 targets, 5 catches, 58 yards. So imagine if they only throw for 3 quarters today. That's almost half the amount of time that they had the last time they played, and he still didn't do well. So Golden for me is not a playable guy. He's playable, but in a lot of situations I'm not going to, because when it comes to Kendrick Bourne in particular, again, I keep highlighting the fact that with Kendrick Bourne, he's got this chemistry with Mac Jones that you can't take away. And we saw it last week versus the Los Angeles Rams. And with Jennings back, that's the reason people are a little scared about Kendrick Bourne, and I get it. But at the same time, I will say Jennings doesn't have that chemistry with Mac Jones like Bourne does. Bourne and him go back to New England, where Kendrick Bourne had his best year as a pro. So I think Kendrick Bourne, and also think about it like this too. Kendrick Bourne and Mac Jones are both backups when all starters are healthy for the 49ers. So think about it all offseason when he was throwing to Kendrick Bourne and not Juwan Jennings. So there's just more built-in chemistry with Jennings than there is with Jennings, or with Bourne than there is with Jennings. So I will definitely take Kendrick Bourne over Matthew Golden. Appreciate the super chat. JV, appreciate the super chat. Good to see you in here. Do I play Isaiah Bond or Malik Washington, or look for waivers? I would probably look on waivers. I would definitely play Bond over Malik Washington, because, again, the problem I have with Malik Washington, and I said this yesterday on the wide receiver start and sit video, is until I see Malik Washington get more downfield work, I'm not going to play him, because last week, inexplicably, he had 4 catches for 0 yards. That doesn't happen. That's crazy, because everything he gets is at the line of scrimmage. So I'm not going to play him until I see more. And at least with Bond, their downfield work. That's the thing with Bond, is that he's getting you downfield work. So Malik Washington is not touching my starting lineup right now. You must be in the deep league, which is fine, but Bond is a better play even on less work in theory. And again, I would look to waivers, man. I would think about, if Kendrick Bourne's available, I would definitely play him. If I might play Luke McCaffrey of Washington over Bond. I'm trying to think of receivers just come off the top of the head. Those are a couple of them right there. Ryan Flanoy out of Dallas, I would play him. There's several options that I would play over Bond. So get a little creative if you haven't thought. If not that you haven't thought about it, but these are clearly deep options that you've given thought into. But you should probably check the waivers again, because I think there probably is options out there. Appreciate the super chat. And again, if you're a premium subscriber on FS Roundup, go utilize my rankings this week. Go utilize my rankings and see where my wide receivers are, because I've got top 70 wide receivers this week. Shant, what's going on? Appreciate the super chat. Would you start DeAndre Swift or Walker this week? I would play Walker because again, it comes down to value of opportunities because I view Walker's opportunities as more valuable because he's on a better offense and he's just a better player than DeAndre Swift as well. So, like, in theory, if Swift gets 20 opportunities and Kenneth Walker gets 12 or 15, like, I'll take those opportunities with Walker because he's a better player and he's on a better offense. So, like, I'll just take Walker this week. And again, I don't think Jacksonville's, like, a tough matchup. Not that I think Washington's that tough and they're going to be that tough. Like, last week, they put the clamps on the Chargers. That was a little bit of an outlier week, I think, for the Washington defense. But Walker's just a better player. So I'll go with Kenneth Walker. Appreciate the super chat. Michael Merowitz, appreciate the super chat. ETN or JCM? That's a close one. Oh, I don't even remember where they're ranked, to be honest. So I'm going to go off of feel this week. They're that closely ranked. That's why I don't remember their rankings. I know they're like possibly back-to-back. Oh, that's tough. Man, that's really, really tough. I think they're both really solid plays. ETN's matchup versus the Seahawks today scares me. And I'll tell you this, like if last week was any indication, what we saw was that Kansas City, their one strength that they've had this year has been stopping the run. And they bottled up ETN quite well. And Seattle is going to be tough today. So Bill Krosky is a guy, again, it just makes logical sense why he would continue to be their lead back. And if it's the case, he's going to be a better play. He will be. Like the risk really comes from do we really truly believe that he's going to lead the backfield in its entirety tomorrow night? That's really the risk. It's the opportunity risk that we're going to take with Bill Krosky, but I will take that because I think the upside is tremendously higher for Bill Krosky than it is with ETN today. So they're that close to my rankings to where I would tell you it's a gut call. If you feel obligated from a safety perspective to go with ETN, I wouldn't blame you. But I want to make it clear that the upside is better with Bill Krosky, and I'm a risky player. I like to take risks. It's how I've won. Risk is how I won $19,000 playing underdog best ball last year. Risk is how I've won dozens and dozens of fantasy championships over 12 years. Like, I take risks. I'm a risky guy by nature, like in life and in fantasy football. So, like, I'm always going to take the risk when they're that close to my rankings. I'm going to take the higher upside, and the higher upside is with Bill. So I'll go with Bill. Appreciate the super chat. Let's go through some questions. We've got like less than 10 minutes, so I'm going to go as fast as I can. McConkey or Keenan? Geico can save your soul. That's a good one. I'll go with Keenan because of the target share that it's just been more consistent. Worthy Tet, JCM bench one. I would bench Bill. I think I answered this one earlier. Jaden Daniels or Frat Stafford. I would go with Jaden. I think Jaden this week is going to go off. He's got that. I think one thing I want to say about the Jaden Daniels versus Caleb Williams matchup tomorrow night, I think Jaden takes it very personally that the Bears didn't even look his way for that number one pick. And again, if they could redraft today, Jaden Daniels would easily be the number one pick over Caleb. So I think that really plays a big role. And I think Jaden's going to play really well tomorrow night. Pro tip for people, I think that's a big deal for Jaden Daniels. Drop Malik Washington for Torrey Horton. I would 100% easily do that. Shaheed or Dave Montgomery in the flex. I would personally go with Dave Montgomery. Michael Carter or Bam Knight. I'll have to go with Bam Knight at this point. Daniels or Stafford. I'd go with Daniels. Kenneth Walker or Swift. I would go with Kenneth Walker. Rams defense or Titans defense, I would go with the Rams defense. Jeremy Cody, appreciate the super chat. Kamara versus Bam Knight. I'll go with Kamara because when it's that uncertain with the Arizona backfield, at least we know with New Orleans that Kamara will lead the backfield and he will get pass-catching opportunities. Who knows if Bam Knight's going to lead the backfield in pass-catching opportunities. And the Arizona offense is arguably as bad this week as the Saints offense will be. So I'll go with Kamara. Bench one, Derrick Henry, Achane, Gentry, or Judkins. I would personally bench Derrick Henry. Play Jameson or Kendra. Definitely easily Jameson Williams. Kendrick Bourne or Tyquan Thornton. Very close, actually, but I'm going to go with Kendrick Bourne. Bam Knight or Kendrick Bourne, I would go with Kendrick Bourne. Flanoy or Tyquan Thornton, I would personally go with Tyquan Thornton. Bam or Zach Charbonnet, I would go with Zach Charbonnet. Yeah, I would go with Zach Charbonnet. Bourne, Trey Tucker, or Haskins, I would go with Bourne. Stafford or Mayfield, I would go with Baker. Keenan or Bill, I'd go with Keenan. Mac Jones or Trevor Lawrence, I would go with I'd go with Mac Jones very easily, actually. Tootin Blue, Hunter Long, I would personally go with Tootin. Gainwell, Ridley, or Shakir, I'm assuming. Skira, I'm assuming it's Shakir. I would go with Shakir. Full PPR is Keenan ahead of Worthy or Diggs now that QJ is out. Yep, he's ahead of both players. Stafford or Mayfield, I would go with Mayfield. Trey Tucker, JMO, I would go with that's close. I would go with JMO because of the matchup upside today. Jags or Seahawks defense, I'm leaning towards the Jags, but it's very, very close. I don't answer spammers, just to let y'all know. Pick up Hunter, Elick, or Horton. I would pick up Hunter for the upside. Just real quick, if you do spam, I got love for you. If you're a fan here, if you've been with me for a long time, I love you. Got love for you, but don't spam. Like, nobody appreciates it when anybody spams. Jeremy Cody, appreciate the super chat. Charbonnet versus Kamara. I would go with Kamara because I think that Kamara is, again, like, the pass catching upside I like, and Charbonnet, unless he gets in the end zone, it's going to be a bad day. Charbonnet just isn't as good as Kamara is, and ironically, like, it's pretty crazy how inefficient Charbonnet has been, but, like, that's the bottom line, is if he doesn't get in the end zone, it's a bad day. Kamara doesn't have to get in the end zone to have a solid day. So I'd go with Kamara. Appreciate the super chat. Rashid Shaheed or Dobbs, I would go with Romeo Dobbs. Shakir or Kendrick Bourne, I would go with Kendrick Bourne. Bourne or Golden, I would go with Bourne. Jacoby Myers, Calvin Ridley, or Risk Dobbs, I would go with Romeo Dobbs. Haskins, Jalen Warren, or Derrick Henry, or Chase Brown, I would go with Derrick Henry. Jacoby Myers or Calvin Ridley, I would go with Jacoby Myers. Geno or Brissett, I'd go with Geno. Yeah, I'd go with Geno. Waddle or McMillan in the rain, I would go with Waddle. Olave or Dobbs, I would personally go with Romeo Dobbs. Debo or Brian Thomas Jr., I would go with Debo for sure. Dak or Daniel Jones, I would go with Dak. Gainwell versus Monty, easily Dave Montgomery. Kincaid or Carter, I would go with Kincaid. All right, guys, it's noon. Appreciate everyone being here. Like the video, subscribe to the channel on your way out. And again, join FS Roundup today. Go post a free start sit poll to get your question answered by the community. Live updates and results go help everybody else out on their decisions as well. Team breakdown available for premium subscribers. Automatic waiver wire tool, my rankings, lots of other great features on the site. Join the site today. Make me happy, support the channel, and you're also going to get overwhelmed with value on the site as well. Love you guys. Let's enjoy today in fantasy football. Good luck, everybody. See you tomorrow.